Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I am your co-host Michael, and as always I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey comics from August of 1985.
Yes, this is a particularly fun month because we've got two comics by Peter David. But before we get to those comics, we've got to introduce the rest of our hosts.
Right.
First, we have G.I. Jolie.
Boo.
Oh.
Love that.
Yeah.
Good
Great.
She brings her own crowd.
I was like, she brings a whole mess of snakes.
Oh yeah.
And then we have our token millennial, Bex Luthor.
Josh is younger than I am.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Well, I think technically I'm a Z.
Yeah, you're Gen Z.
I think I'm the first. I don't know. It depends on who you ask. I'm thrown in. It's whatever's worse. Whoever they're trying to insult. I'm either a Gen Z or a millennial.
All right, but
Anyway, hi. It's me, the mess of snakes that Jolie brought.
that's great. And then we also have a returning guest host, Chad from. Wait, what's your superhero name, Chad?
Dr. Chad Hatton.
Oh, right.
Oh, amazing.
I'm the token blue omnipotent nudist.
There's always one.
Well, thanks for joining us again.
Anytime.
Awesome. I think, is this your third time now?
Yes, I believe.
I know that one time
so.
we talked about Deborah Whitman, and another time we talked
Yep.
about, I think it was Marvel Fanfare with Angel and Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, with Sauron.
That's right.
Right.
Good
It was
times.
terrible.
Yeah, well, I like the art, but anyway.
Oh,
It's
well,
mostly terrible on this
wasn't
show.
it Chris Claremont?
Yeah, it's Chris Claremont writing, yeah. It was pretty rough.
We had to rag on him. It was great.
But anyway, so yeah, thanks for coming back. So this week, we're going to be starting off with Web of Spider-Man number 5, and it actually has a cover by John Byrne, who at this time was most famous for X-Men and Fantastic Four. Before we jump into this, Chad, I want to know what you think of this cover.
Of Web of Spider-Man?
Yeah, with Doc Ock.
Well, I'm saying Catherine Hahn put on a lot of weight.
Oh my god.
All right, that says it all.
I mean, funnily enough, she did play Doc Ock in Spider-Verse.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Well,
She lost all that great hair.
I
That's what
know.
happens when you gain weight. Yeah.
I'm kind of into this costume.
Are you?
I was just going to say it looks terrible.
I like it better than his like bright green and yellow jumpsuit.
Well,
He
this
looks
is
like he's
bright
gonna
green
Arms are
and
coming
white.
out of his armpits. So
Oh yeah, I guess so. But
It-
you know what though? His new suit seems to do that for some reason. Like when the suit last issue came and saved him from prison, it like the arms were coming out of the side, and I think that's because they're kind of leaning more into the fact that his arms are sentient. So when they're not attached to him, it's kind of like a dog almost, how it moves. So I think that his new look with the arms coming out the side is, it has to do with that. But
Well,
he
the
looks
thing
like
is,
he's gonna
it look-
bake. Like
It looks like a
large
hospital gown to
quantities
me.
of croissants. Pardon?
It looks like a hospital gown to me.
All I heard was Jolie say large quantities of croissants.
I love the big green glasses too.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I love
They
those.
came back. They're trendy now.
Yeah.
We sell them.
Oh.
We don't sell them. They're trendy. That means we don't sell them. Just kidding. Love my job. Anyway.
Okay, so anyway, so Josh,
Are we
why don't
gonna have to
Your job
bleep that
is
out?
listening.
No, it's fine.
No, okay.
so why don't you tell us about what happened in this issue?
Okay, yeah, so we're kind of continuing the story from last issue that started, and again, Otto Octavius was kind of on his way to recovery. He was going to therapy, and he kind of went downhill for a little bit and mentally kind of lost it, and he still has that like mental link to his arms, and they escaped the like facility that they were being held in, and they actually went to the prison and rescued him and took him away, brought him back to his secret lair, and Otto decided to take back the mantle of Dr. Octopus. So in this issue, we kind of see that he is still not mentally prepared to fight Spider-Man again, and he's kind of still afraid of him, and he's slowly trying to build up the courage and kind of, I guess, like the tolerance for Spider-Man. So he's had his goons create this robotic AI Spider-Man so he could fight him and practice. And we see a bit of that, and he kind of takes him over, and it's weird. It's like he's doing it as like a show in front of his goons. But we cut back to Spidey after he saved some people from a falling scaffolding as they're like painting a billboard or putting up a billboard, and he goes back home, and he's been like searching for Doc Ock, can't find him, and that's when Aunt May's husband, Nathan, right?
Live in eternal partner.
Whatever, boyfriend, yeah.
Nathan calls and kind of updates Peter on the fact that they're having some money troubles, and it looks like they're going to lose the house. And he understands that he's not asking Peter for money, but he just doesn't want Peter to be shocked when the house is gone. But Peter does take it personally and thinks that he still needs to help his aunt out. So he decides to go to the Bugle, where he's talking to J. Jonah Jameson again, because he's trying to start up this magazine or revive this magazine, and he wants to buy pictures from Peter of Spider-Man to kind of, again, continue that like defaming Spider-Man thing. He kind of rejects him, says he can't. And then Robbie has to leave, and it's really weird. They write him out of the story like really quickly in like a panel. But the new acting editor is Catherine Cushing.
Yeah, Cushing, I think.
Cushing, yeah.
Yep.
So she gives him she gives Peter an assignment to go talk at this like embassy meeting that's supposed to be like locked down and nobody's allowed in, no press is allowed, and Peter takes this job because he knows he can sneak in as Spider-Man. So as he's at the bank, it turns out that it just so happens that Doc Ock and his goons go in and rob the bank. Peter Parker beats up some goons while Doc Ock is like in the basement of this building, and one of the women, like the tellers, gets shot in the arm. So Spider-Man takes her and brings her to the hospital, and doesn't think to like call 911 and then fight Doc Ock. He just leaves all of the other hostages there with this major supervillain. Anyways, Doc Ock takes the cash, runs away, and then Peter goes as Spider-Man to take pictures of the embassy meeting, all while Doc Ock crashes the Daily Bugle and holds them hostage so he can finally meet Spider-Man and have this confrontation with him. And he's taking too long because he's at this like secret meeting. And so Doc Ock decides to take Catherine as hostage and brings her like to his secret lair, and that Spider-Man and Doc Ock have this final showdown there. Doc Ock again still kind of like stricken with this fear of the fact that Spider-Man beat him last time, and like the therapy that he's going through and everything like that. He loses, and just as Peter is about to rid Doc Ock of his metal arms for good and destroy them, the police and Doc Ock's lawyer slash he's his attorney shows up and says, if you do that, we'll sue you because Doc Ock is still a citizen and he has the right to have these arms. So
he
Peter's
has a right
like,
to bear arms.
Kind of pissed off with everything. Peter leaves, destroys the robot Spider-Man, and returns to the Bugle to hand her the pictures from the embassy. But unfortunately, because he had to take them through a screen, they won't be able to publish them, and they're going to go with Lance Bannon's pictures. And that's kind of where we end things, with Peter Parker sad that nothing ever goes his way as he walks home in the rain.
Yeah. I'm just going to quickly say there was some things I liked about this. I actually really like the art. I don't know if you noticed that the artist flipped, and it's Jim Mooney penciling and Greg LaRoque inking, which is the opposite of what's usual. I really like the art. The story was okay. I hate this idea of Doc Ock being so scared of Spider-Man that he becomes, like, you know, frozen.
It's really weird, especially because he tried to lure Spider-Man out. What was he thinking? He brought the hostage so he can lure Spider-Man to his lair. And then once Spider-Man shows up, he's like, it's Spider-Man, and he's scared and doesn't do anything.
Right.
What was his game plan?
Right. And also the whole idea of a freaking robot, it's so hokey. I don't know. Again, Danny Fingeroth I think this is his second issue. It's enjoyable, but overall I think it's really cheesy, but that's all I'm going to say for now. Chad, I want to know, what did you think of Web of Spider-Man number 5?
It was okay. I read it really fast.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
The better to get it over with.
Did anything stand out as being good, bad, ugly?
Okay, so when I read things quickly, I really don't take in the narrative. I'm mostly looking at the pages. And I like that you quickly went over the artwork and described the fact that it was flip-flopped, right? Like the inker was drawing and the artist was whatever. The penciler was inking. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting to me. For me, I just kind of really get drawn into the textures. Yeah. And I know this is before the way they do paint, they paint the pictures now on the computer. Now it's all what I'm looking at is the cross hatching of how they can generate green is through the dot of the yellow and the blue. And it's really kind of, I don't know, it's cute. It's really kind of, quaint. And, so when they hit just flat yellow or flat red, it kind of assaults your eyes. Right. And I don't like it as much as I like the oranges and the greens and the textures of the backgrounds. I'm looking at this page right now, where the background is orange, but it looks kind of dingy. So it I don't know, it's compelling. I liked that just because it's an artifact.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, I like that idea that they, despite some of these stories being absolute garbage, or not great or anything to write home about, is that we have these really cool pieces of pop culture history. How we created these books will always survive because we get to look at them. Hopefully they say white and not yellow, but yeah, there's just some really great artifacts, like you said.
And it's also partly because of the flexograph process, which we talked about, I think, last week. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Chad, but it was a slightly different color, technology that they introduced around this time. And most people hated it because of the exact reasons you're talking about. When they did certain colors, like orange and green, they kind of just, destroyed your eyeballs. But I don't know. I didn't mind it. It was an experiment that kind of failed, but I don't mind it because this is what I grew up with, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quaint, like you said. It's unnatural as all hell, but it's really kind of you're looking at a comic book. You know what you're looking at, and it has a visual language that I can appreciate. Sweet.
Bex Luthor, what do you think?
I liked it. You guys, this is the first one that I read that I was like, oh, now I'm getting into web. The other ones were okay. I was compelled to the story. Doc Ock's traumatized. I love that for him. just he's like fight or flight, right? And then all of a sudden the image of his trauma is in front of him, really this time, not just a robot, and he freezes completely. That's actually a really realistic depiction of trauma. I like the idea that this bad guy is acting all tough in front of his goons and fighting a robot Spidey, and then when he comes face to face with Spider-Man, he can't cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, this image of Spider-Man in his head is put onto such this pedestal of, like, oh, there's no way I can beat him.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, the art's okay, the coloring, again, same things that Chad was saying. I'm not too big of a fan of all this stuff. I don't know, it just kind of, sometimes it looks a little messy and muddy to me. And a little boring sometimes, because it's like there's one shade of orange, there's one shade of red, there's one shade of green. Like,
right.
You have like all of the goons are dressed in green, and they just kind of blur together like zebras. Like, but my favorite part was a joke that I think would still probably hit today. Is what page is it on? It's on 22, the first panel in there. It's when the lawyer shows up. And he's like, I've got an injunction of what's that word? Pendente light here. And he's like, take some antibiotics. And I like burst out laughing. I was like, that's actually funny. I like that. No, I had a fun time. I had a good time. It was interesting. It was compelling. Catherine Cushing can step on me. That's totally cool. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like a standard fun Spidey story.
Yeah, she's got some, like, real Miranda Priestley vibes, and,
Yeah, tell me my outfit sucks, please.
Yes. Please, make me fetch your coffee, and your lunch, and your dinner.
Which unbound copy of Harry Potter do you want?
Yeah. Like, anyway, sorry, I'm just... Somehow it always comes down to fashion in these books, and is it this one, or is it one of the other books where someone actually makes comments about fashion of the industry? I think it's
I think it's the other one.
Yeah, it's either Amazing or Peter Parker, but, like, I don't know. It's so great.
The fashion in this one is pretty. I love Peter's blue suit and yellow turtleneck.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, I love me a half Spidey like that on page I think it's 6. Good half Spidey. When he just gets $100 extra from the bank machine.
Oh, page 8, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
It's just like, oh, I check your bank account, $23, and I'm like, oh, me too, Peter. Crap. Very relatable. No, I really enjoyed myself on this one.
Well, go ahead, Jolie.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I think the art really helps because it's Jim Mooney. He's like from the 50s. It's so clear. It's so crisp. And it just gives it that old Silver Age feel. And, yeah, like, again, the story was not as bad as I thought it would be. So I guess Danny Fingeroth is growing on me. And it does end with that classic, Parker Luck ending with him walking in the rain. He loses again, like Charlie Brown. And so in that respect, I like it. I just don't think that the plot with Dr. Octopus makes for a very compelling villain. Or a very scary villain, intimidating villain. So, but other than that, I enjoyed it. What were you going to say, Jolie?
I was just going to say that the art on page 12 is another one of those things where we always talk about what you can and can't do with the medium, and I'm not saying that you can't do this in film. I'm just saying that it would look stupid if you did. Because some asshole's going to try it. And it's not going to look this cool.
And I actually posted this on a page because I love this page so much. This was 1985, so it was the same year that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons were experimenting with stuff like this in Watchmen. So there was always stuff like this around, and it's just cool to see Jim Mooney try that. So
yeah, and I love a good maze. Who doesn't love a good maze?
Right. So yeah, this one.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say something stupid, so don't worry about it.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say some great butts too on page 12.
Okay, let's talk about that. Now's the time of the podcast where we talk about asses.
Well, when they keep the light blue flexograph in there, it really, like, since blue is used for shading on black, we have some really nice contour. Like, that outlines his muscle, that outlines the shape of Spidey. It's very gestural in a way, and it's kind of nice. And, like, there's not too much crack. So it's just a nice, round, firm butt.
Okay, I know I've been gone for a while, but you guys seriously have a section in your podcast where you talk about butts?
Yeah.
It only started weirdly when I started being on the podcast more regularly. I don't know why, just a weird coincidence.
No, that's great. I'm happy for everybody here.
Every other podcast talks about girls' butts all the time. We could talk about Spidey's butt a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I was expecting this to be like the end of a joke, and then Jolie just kept going.
No, we're seriously adding to the tally. It's the butt,
Okay.
the official, unofficial butt tally.
Okay, I'm here for it, I guess.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah,
Make note of all the butts.
Yeah, future butts.
I'll do my best.
Chad's like, oh, this will be my third and last time on the podcast. I see it's gone to degeneracy since I've been gone.
Well, in any case, this was, again, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, so I'm going to recommend this one. Chad, I know that you only kind of speed read it, but
Yeah.
do you recommend this comic?
Sure. It can't hurt.
Okay. Josh, do you recommend this one?
Yeah, this was all in all a pretty fun story. It's definitely a little bit weaker than last week's, but it's still pretty fun. It's a solid story, so yeah.
All right.
I feel like maybe this is like the closest the comics have gotten so far to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because it's a good thing to me.
Take it as you will.
All right.
Bad.
All right, Julie, are you going to read this again, and do you recommend it?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Am I going to read it again? No. Might I look at it again? Probably by accident.
All right.
Will I recommend it? I doubt it. Will the earth keep spinning? Absolutely. Who knows?
I feel like we need a scale instead of like a yes or no. Because sometimes I'm like, yeah, maybe, yeah, sure.
Well, we could go 1 out of 10, but rated out of 10, but that's cliche, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, no
Anyway.
cliches on this show.
Nope. Bex Luthor, do you recommend it?
Just comics and butts.
Just comics and butts. Nothing like, can't have cliches. That's too far. Yeah, sure, read it. I'm enjoying Web of so far. I'm having a good time. It's a good
Nice.
start at the beginning of something, but like, everyone needs to stop buying the old issues because I'm having trouble finding them. So
I've got a collection of about 300 I'll be selling when we're done this podcast, so we'll talk, okay?
yeah, no, I'll take, yeah, you can fill in the gaps.
All right. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to Amazing Spider-Man number 267, which was the subject of my speech in grade 8 about Spider-Man. When I talked about my favorite character and my favorite story, this was my favorite story at that time. It's still up there. So, to summarize very quickly, the premise of this issue is Spider-Man is stuck in the suburbs. We start out, again, this is Peter David on his, I think this is his second Spider-Man story. Oh no, third. So it's Peter David on script, Bob McLeod on art. For those that don't know Bob McLeod, he is the co-creator of the New Mutants with Chris Claremont. He only drew, I think, the first few issues, then he became the inker, and then he eventually got replaced by Bill Sienkiewicz. He went on to do inking on Superman and some other titles. But this is early Bob McLeod stuff, and I absolutely love this art, which we'll talk more about later. But we start off with Spider-Man and Human Torch kind of catching up where they left off last issue. Catching up where they left off with the Blaze story from Peter Parker 103. We get a cameo appearance by Candy and Randy, and, well, 2 of them anyway, up on the rooftop. They have a little quick chat. Then we get I completely forgot about this part. This is a very awkward setup. But somehow Spider-Man peeks inside a clothing store, and inside the clothing store is a guy holding a fake gun, and he's standing next to a mannequin. But he notices that Spider-Man sees him, and he assumes that Spider-Man thinks that the gun is real, and so the only way that he could figure to get out of it is to pretend that the mannequin is a real woman and use her as a hostage. So this part of the story, if I were to revise my pick, this is not a very well executed scene, but the rest of it is good. But that's okay. We'll move on. So anyway, so Peter Parker is now chasing this guy through the streets, through the subways. The guy manages to get away. So now Spider-Man's like, okay, well, I got to try and find this guy. And so we show Peter Parker going to sleep, waking up. We see the guy going to sleep, waking up. Spider-Man can't find him, so he's like, okay, this is it. I'm going to use one of my spider tracers and see if I can track him down. Right? Is that what he does? Yeah. I think everyone's left me.
Yeah.
You're great at speech, dude.
Yeah. So anyway, so he basically swings onto a train that's going into... what neighborhood does he end up going into? Is it Queens? I'm not even sure. Oh, Scarsdale?
I can't remember.
I don't know the geography of New York, but it takes him right into the suburbs. And so, he runs into a dog. He runs into a little kid. This is one of my favorite scenes. He runs into a little kid on a big wheel, just riding his big wheel down the street on the sidewalk. And Spider-Man's like, hi. And the kid's like, I'm Shauna. Are you a stranger? Sort of. Well, I gotta be swinging off. He shoots his web, and the first time in Spider-Man history, he's got nothing to stick to. If you guys remember in the old 60s Spider-Man cartoons, no matter where Spider-Man was in the city, he could always manage to not only swing his way home, but swing above the tops of the building. It was ridiculous. But in this story, they actually address the fact that if there's no buildings around, Spider-Man cannot get around. So he tries jumping up into a tree, ends up knocking it over, and then that pisses off some of the neighbors, like whose tree it is, so then they get mad. So then the guy tries to kind of give him a citizen's arrest and kind of like shake him down. So Spider-Man ends up webbing up this couple to like the top of their car. Then he jumps on the top of a city bus, but the bus stops and demands bus fare from Spider-Man, but of course he doesn't have any change on in his tights, so the bus leaves him. So then we see this shot of Spider-Man just walking down the street with all these suburbanites kind of looking at him like, what the hell is this guy doing? So then these garbage men pull up and they're like, hey man, Spider-Man, you rescued my sister, you're awesome. So they agree to give him a lift for free on the top of this garbage truck. Meanwhile, the spider tracer is inside this guy's laundry. He finds it just as Spider-Man is almost upon him. He crunches it with his foot, and then he's like, okay, well, I'm going to get out of here. So he jumps in his car and he's driving away, and Spider-Man is in front of his house, so he tries to run him down. Spider-Man shoots his web at him. He tries to stop the car, but it doesn't work. It rips off the car's bumper. So Spider-Man ends up jumping into a car with a Hispanic driver that can't speak English. So he's trying to get this cab to follow him, and they end up getting into this near miss car accident, followed by another actual car accident where a police car rear ends the cab. Spider-Man jumps out, ends up catching the guy, and then webbing him up. And they don't even really resolve what happened with this guy or whether Spider-Man realizes what happened, but it's kind of just a comedy ending with, the neighbors, yelling at the cops about Spider-Man. The Hispanic cab driver doesn't know what's going on, and the kid kind of just making a smart remark. And that's the end. And that's pretty much it. And like I said earlier, this is one of my favorite Spider-Man stories. The artwork looks like almost Kurt Swanish to me. It has a very nice Silver Age vibe, very clean. The story, other than the very awkward execution at the very beginning, I think is still excellent. It's still really funny. I was laughing out loud when I was reading it, even though I've read it 20 times. And I hope that one day they can adapt this into one of the movies. Just stick it at the beginning, like the opening 10 or 15 minutes. I think would be great. But anyway, Chad, I want to know, what did you think of When Cometh the Commuter?
Okay, so this is another one that I read really quickly. I stopped immediately when I saw the Spanish. I thought that was great to have like the cab driver speak only in Spanish.
Right.
I mean, I think he had like a little bit of like there was a little bit of English that he translated, but like whenever we see something that isn't whenever we see someone speaking another language, we always have the brackets, and we always have an asterisk that says translated from Espanol or something silly or dumb, right? But like they actually did the work, found the words, and put it in there. And I don't know, when did this come out? Like 84, 85? Okay. Yeah. Like maybe that wasn't groundbreaking then, but I thought it was great because you don't really ever see that. And you note that there are kids out there who are going to be like, what does this mean? And they're going to look it up and they're going to try to learn. And I think that's great.
Uh-huh. Well, now what about, as far as everything else, I know that you read it quickly. What about the whole situation? I mean...
I hit the brakes when I saw the Spanish. It was very clearly like, okay, he's in the city, he's in his black costume. And then all of a sudden, I thought it was like a Rip Van Winkle situation because halfway through, there's like this thing where he goes to bed and he wakes up and all of a sudden he's in a red and blue costume. So I had to go back and be like, what did I just read? Because I thought it was like in town, out of town, and like a dichotomy kind of a thing. Sure. Because, I mean, going back, I think the pages are they look the same, but what I was going to say is that when you're in like the suburbs, things are much more monotonous and like the colors were going to be different and the backgrounds were more boring. But I just went back into the pages and they're not any more or less boring in the city.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So what you're saying is this is boring?
No, I mean, like, I thought the author, they were trying to have something to say. Like, Spider-Man is more exciting, life is more exciting, things are more exciting in the city. That when you get out of the city, things are more flat and not as detailed. Like, there aren't buildings in the background. There isn't much going on. There's just, like, a little girl on a big wheel and Spider-Man on a sidewalk. There, like, that's all there is. But I don't know. That was all in my head, I guess.
It's possible. I mean, I think it's more just to me. I mean, again, this is only Peter David's like third story, and Jim Shooter apparently did not think Peter David was a good enough writer to be doing Spider-Man. But in 3 issues, he's already given us something we have never seen in 83 episodes. Like, no one else thought to do this. Let's put Spider-Man in the suburbs and see what happens. And sure enough, comedy ensues, right?
Doesn't though.
Oh.
Oh, you don't think so? Okay.
So
yeah,
I thought it was fine. I think that it's fun to do once. I don't think that this story is like like, it's not a great story. Is it fun and funny? Yes, at times, but it reads more like a Looney Tunes short than anything else. Like it's very Wile E. Coyote trying to catch the Roadrunner, where it's just like tiny little segments of him trying to be a superhero in a place he's not used to, and it's like set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline, and again, it's fun, but it's not really a story.
That is a story, but like having a goal and having obstacles is literally the definition of a story. But that's, if you didn't like it, that's fine. But
right, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but like, it's not. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's not like. I don't think that it is the right type of story for Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's the point.
Because it seems like
we've never seen it. To put him in a situation he's never been in, and we get something we've never seen, which is dealing with not being able to swing, dealing with, not even a supervillain, just a regular guy that he has to chase on top of a bus, on top of a garbage truck. I don't know. I mean, the reason I like this is
I think it's because it's just for humor and not actually, it doesn't have any consequences to what he is trying to do. And I think that's what I mean by it doesn't fit with Spider-Man. It's because it's just like a comedy. Like, it's just like, again, it's like a Looney Tunes short where it's just played for jokes and the story is just whatever. It's just there to tell jokes rather than being a story.
You've read Peter David before. This is what he does.
Peter David is known as a comedy writer, but I think that's actually the reason I like this comic is, and that's why I don't like modern comics, is because they're so obsessed with only telling stories where the status quo changes. Everything you know is a lie. Whereas this story, if you think of a story as a MacGuffin, like if the MacGuffin of the story is Spider-Man has to chase this guy, when you get to the end of the story, they don't even really resolve that. It doesn't really matter what the guy. That's why the beginning is the weakest part. It doesn't really matter why Spider-Man is in the suburbs. He just has to go there. So the setup is kind of like pointless. The fact that he catches him, and then what happens at the end is pointless. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if the guy gets caught. It doesn't matter if he goes to jail. What the story is everything that happens in between. It's like, and it is a comedy. Like Peter David set out to make a comedy, and that's what he did. It's like National Lampoon's Vacation. The goal of the movie is to get to the park, and then everything that happens in between is all the comedy. Everything that ensues in the middle. So
okay.
I don't know.
Well, then by that stance, then I just don't think it was funny.
Oh my god!
I guess it's cool ideas. I like the idea of him having to find other ways. I just don't. I could hear the after every failed attempt to do something.
Well, guess what? The next 30 episodes are gonna suck for that. You guys don't think it's funny because that's every Peter David story. So okay, G.I. Jolie, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I kind of agree with Josh, where I understand what is happening and I understand the kind of comedy that is being written here. I don't particularly find it funny. Like, this isn't my kind of comedy. There's different comedy for everybody, but this kind of, I'm gonna make a really it's gonna be almost a false equivalency, but the equivalent to me is a stoner comedy, where he finds himself, and in these stoner comedies, it's usually the protagonist and their buddy, and they find themselves in a series of unfortunate events that lead to sometimes hilarity, and they're usually just looking for drugs, or they're looking for their car, or they're looking for their girlfriend, or they're trying to have a Christmas vacation. And I just think the comedy, it doesn't hit because, one, it's not comedy for me. And it's kind of antiquated. So, yeah, I have often thought of what would happen if Spider-Man didn't have anything to swing off of, but is that really the jumping off point that sort of propels his journey into Scarsdale? Every encounter that he had annoyed me. Especially the little girl on the big wheel, and then the weird couple, who are part of Neighborhood Watch, and I don't know if any of that is because of the dislike for the neighbors that he encounters, is because I dislike the suburbs. I could just be projecting, but at the heart of it, it's still not funny to me, and that's it. This one just didn't hit at all.
But did you like the Frog and Toad one? I don't remember.
Did I? Do I ever like the books? I don't know.
I don't know if shit like that.
Well, that's what I mean. Is you're in for it because this is it now. This is for the next 30 episodes. So this is what we're gonna get. Okay.
Wow. Do you know what?
I think it's okay. I mean, I know I'm new here, everybody, but
get out.
I mean, it's silly. I mean, Spider-Man has always been kind of part dramedy, part comedy, part superhero crap. You know, it's like it's always a little bit of everything. And he hates the suburbs. He probably hates the people in the suburbs. He hates everything about it. So I think we're supposed to hate it alongside him. You being annoyed by the people he meets? Yeah, that was probably intentional. What I'm wondering is if Peter David actually hates the people in Scarsdale.
Yeah. That'd be hilarious if he did. Because if I was that garbage man and I was living in Scarsdale, I'd be like, oh, shoot, dude, that's me.
Yeah.
I actually thought that the garbage men were cool until he started, sexually harassing Spider-Man. Like, trying to pawn his, sister off? His divorced,
recently divorced sister.
But apparently everybody's just horny for Spider-Man in this one too, because the dude's wife that's trying to put him under citizen's arrest is like, I think he needs a woman's touch, and starts like squeezing his ass.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah,
it wasn't funny. It was like gross. Like
but
that couple grossed me out.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's the intent. Like, good. Spider-Man is not enjoying this. He's not supposed to be enjoying it, right?
Okay. Well, I just thought we were.
But if it's a joke, aren't we supposed to enjoy it?
Yeah.
Well, I did. I told you I was laughing out loud, and I've read this 30 times. So I don't know.
That's a lot. That's a lot of times.
Well, yeah, of course. But I told you it's my favorite story. Of course, I've read it a lot. But anyway, Bex Luthor.
This reminds me of Homecoming. You guys have seen that movie. You've obviously seen Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Now what is that?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm new. Leave me alone.
Never heard of it.
No, he was in the party, right? And he's got to like get away from the party to get to where the bad guy is, and he's constantly crashing into people's backyards.
That was
very similar to this, right?
And that reminded me of this. Yes, absolutely.
Right. And it's like, yes, it was comedy, but it was like slapstick. It was filmed. It was storyboarded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's on its way there.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that the whole I think that the thing is the whole movie wasn't scenes like that. This entire book was this, and it made it less enjoyable as I continued to read. Like, I thought we were in for like a really cool adventure. One, we're gonna have to start a side boob tally, but we'll circle back to that later. I thought we were like in for a really cool maybe adventure with the Human Torch, but it went somewhere weird. Like Chad, I had to stop and go back because I thought I missed something. Like I was like, is this a dream sequence? I don't understand what's going on. But yeah.
Okay, Bex Luthor. I don't think you said much.
No, I was just basking in the people not liking things that Mike like. It's just one of my favorite genres.
Now I know you felt on Saturday night.
On everything we've ever discussed. No, I agree with Josh and Jolie immensely on this one, especially Jolie. I did not find it funny. I was bored reading it. When he shoots his web and there's nothing to it, Spider-Man's written like a complete idiot, and that bothers me. He just like is like the big himbo. Like, I don't understand why is all of a sudden there's no building, so now he's like just shoots his web into nothingness, and he's like, oh, well, that's weird, didn't work. Like, yeah, duh. And then he can't run, he can't jump. Like, all of a sudden he's just like, well, gotta hitch a ride. Something about it pissed me off.
But you liked the Toad issue.
I did, but I think because I like frogs.
Yeah, remember? Confirmed frog girl.
Yeah, so I think if they just put some frogs in this, I would forgive it. Like, and he webbed the dog. That's mean.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. Like, just you can jump over the dog, Spider-Man. I don't know. He's real dumbed down for all this, like you guys were saying, slapstick comedy, and that to me isn't really Spider-Man's thing. His is more like dry wit and like fast-paced, smart comedy. So like this kind of like him just like walking down the street and everyone's looking at him because he's a big weirdo, like, and he doesn't have fare for the bus. Like, okay, I guess. And then it just ends.
Why does the tree break? Because he sits in it.
He's a fatty.
I guess it's like a big thick tree.
Well, he's a big thick boy.
He's a big thick himbo.
Okay, so
yeah, it's like such a weird thing to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he's just heavy. I don't know.
He's not though. He's little. He's a little man.
Well, it could be a little tree.
He's a 5'8" king.
Do you know what? I forgot about the bus driver, and now, just looking at the way that he drew the bus driver, I think Chad is right. I think he's got it out for the people of Scarsdale. Like, someone did him wrong there, and Peter David is like, F those people. They're all jerks, especially that bus driver. Like, I've been on a bus where, a woman will get on with like three of her baby carriages and all of her bags from Walmart, and then she'll like go and sit down and then begin to root around in her purse, and the bus driver will stop he'll start going, realize that this woman doesn't have the change, and he'll stop before the next stop and ask her to leave. Like, that's that guy. Like, have a little compassion. She's got 5 children and all of her, like, groceries with her. Like, just let the woman ride. It is $3. Anyway.
I don't think I've met a kind bus driver.
I've met one. Shout out to Dave. But
shout out to Dave.
Yeah.
This episode is dedicated to Dave.
It is.
You know who you are.
You know who you are. It just seems weird that I don't know how far out Scarsdale is from the inner city where he lives, like the Bronx. Like, he's headed to the Bronx. Like, how far away is that? I don't know. But that, the Garbage Man happened to have a magazine with Spider-Man on it, so at least people will know that it's Spider-Man. But they just treat him really strangely, and it's like too strange. All of the encounters that he has are too out of place for me to enjoy the story.
Anyway, it's in Westchester County, Scarsdale, so I don't know how far away that is from Manhattan, but
okay.
I don't think it matters.
Far enough.
Okay, so let's talk about the art. As I said earlier, I absolutely love this art. Chad, did you notice, between the last issue and this one, what'd you think of this art?
Wait, what? The last issue?
The issue we just reviewed, The Web of Spider-Man. I'm saying comparing it.
I'm like, I only read one.
Yeah.
So it's colored different.
This is recolored.
The pencils are the pencils, right? This is of the time. I don't put much pressure on these guys because it's like, yeah, they look vaguely human. But the color is different, and I wonder why. They're published at the same time,
No,
correct?
because this is recolored. This is recolored for a reprint, like a digital. Yeah. The other one is not. The other one's just a scan.
I wondered why everything was so flat.
Yeah, that's... I personally... I like the colors in this, but it is a little bit flat, but they kind of haven't mastered the art of recoloring yet.
Yeah, it's fine. It's really... I guess what bothers me is the chartreuse, the hot pink, the purple, and it's just obnoxious.
Yeah. It's like they can't... I don't want to assume about the colorist's vision, but...
Right.
It's like they're colorblind.
Yeah. Just like... Maybe they've only got 256 colors to pull from, right?
Well,
but who the hell would have a Kelly Green comforter?
And I assume that that is also the fact that this is a reprint, because it always looks better. Amazing always looks worse. Because it's these... Recolored? Yeah, I personally think so. I think if you grab like a newsprint texture and then just put it on as a multiply layer onto any of these panels, it would look better.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, what's funny is they took the time to recolor it, but like, why is the road cyan? Like, they could have just made it, gray, but they actually took the time to make it look garish blue, and then the driveway's purple. Like, why?
it's the same colors as the sky, like in the same panel.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I do gotta say that besides that Bob McLeod being a great artist, I also love the way he draws Spider-Man in his black costume with just solid black with just a few blue highlights. I think it looks really nice. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's just a minor thing.
Yeah, but I think that's some of the best stuff in this comic. When he's just like chatting with his pal, Johnny, like it's great. Them swinging through the city and flying, and then like Spidey talking about him and Felicia's breakup, and like Johnny's like genuinely supportive about it instead of like, you know, calling him like an idiot for getting dumped. Right. Like you could tell that they're friends. Right. And it's like the most genuine fun thing about that I think was in this issue.
The thing is like I said, it's like it doesn't really go together. Like the premise, the whole scene with the guy with the gun, like I said, it's terribly executed. And it is a weird thing. Like the whole thing with Johnny Storm didn't need to be in the story. So it's almost like it should have been in either another story or it should have been at the end of the last story, but it didn't really fit. But anyway, besides that, like I said, I love the art. Like even the shot of Spider-Man and Human Torch swinging by this in the city, and you see just the regular people inside the building. That's so natural looking. Like Bob McLeod is such a good artist, and he's unfortunately never really. Maybe he just takes too long to draw. I don't know. But if you go to digital page 5, you notice the shot when Spider-Man is up in the building and he's looking down at the guy going into the subway entrance. Mm-hmm. That is very unusual for an artist to. If you were to use like a photographer's like thing, it's like that lens is something a typical artist would not use. Like to have that many people in the shot is just unusual. I think most artists would get kind of lazy and just show Spider-Man, show the guy going in, and that's it. But it's almost like he's using like a wide lens to fit in more people into the shot. I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, it almost looks like a reference picture was used.
Right, I agree. Like, well, it's weird. And I actually told Bob McLeod on Facebook, I said, your artwork is realistic and cartoony at the same time, and that's why I like it. And he's like, I have no idea what you mean. I was like, I can't really explain it, so I probably just talked out of my ass.
How did you get in my house?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think does anyone else want to say anything about the art, or no? Now's your time to speak.
Oh, it's good.
Bob McLeod, all right. Co-creator of the New Mutants. Hopefully we'll review that one day. Okay, so obviously I'm going to recommend it because it's one of my favorite stories of all time. Josh?
No, I don't think I would. I didn't hate it. I just don't think it worked for me. Like, I was just like, it's fine. So I wouldn't go out of my way to recommend it, but yeah.
All right, Chad, do you recommend this story?
Yeah, I recommend it. Woo. Spider-Man in the Suburbs.
You got that right. G.I. Jolie.
I can't, but I can recommend the cover. Look at it. It's amazing. Look at all that movement. It's just one of those things where the cover really just got me. I was really excited for what was like. What does that mean? When cometh the commuter? Like, is there a villain called the Commuter? No, the great evil here is the Suburbs.
And I didn't even, when I was a kid and I recommended this to my classmates, I didn't even know what commuter meant. So, anyway. And by the way, the cover is by Mark Bright and Kyle Baker, and I actually don't like that cover, which is kind of ironic. But anyway. Okay, who's that? Bex Luthor, do you recommend this issue?
No. Sucked. Pass.
All right. I was gonna give you my original copy of the Spider-Man, Toad, and Frogman team up, but now I'm not going to. Okay, now we're gonna jump to Peter Parker.
That's fine. You think you're the only boy who buys me comic books? I got boys buying me comic books all over the place. I buy my own comic books. I'm an independent woman.
Okay.
And also, I feel like you missed the part where she said she had the original issue.
No, you don't. Do you have the original? Not of that one.
Maybe of that one. I haven't
No, you don't. You have it of another one. I was paying attention. Anyway, okay. But it's okay because it's going back into my box right now. Okay, Spectacular 105 with the Wasp. Who is going to summarize this one?
I think that we both were going to try.
All right, tag team.
Yes. Okay, so.
Hold on. My phone's dying.
Oh, no.
One second.
Oh, no. Okay.
Okay.
I mean, my comic book is dying.
Oh, are you gonna be able to look at it?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so
We're there.
Yeah, so again, it's another story by Peter David. Luke McDonnell is the penciler. Brett Breeding is the inker. Joe Rosen is the letterer. Not that that matters. I don't know. Apparently it does. They're releasing a big. Sorry, I'm hitting the tangent button. They're releasing a book about how important lettering is to comics, and I agree. Anyway, sorry, so it's called United We Fall. It starts with a burning building. I don't know how... Oh, sorry. Spider-Man's there, and he's taking pictures of it. And he takes them to the Daily Bugle, and I think he's told that they're not that good. But he'll take them anyway. I can't remember.
He's told that because he takes he goes in to save people, right? But he's too late. Like, the guy is charred.
Oh,
but
yeah.
he takes pictures of him anyway.
Yeah.
And then, which is pretty brutal, not gonna lie.
Hey, Robbie, take a look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this dead guy. Found him. Isn't that sick? Don't ask how I got him.
Yeah, Robbie's like, great shots, Pete.
Yeah, so he's, like, interested in them because the guy's, like, the head of a union that is in, like, the news or something like that. So he's like, oh, that's interesting. And Peter's like, is it interesting?
Yeah, and they have this conversation about something called Neville, which is short for Norris Edwards Van Dyne, like Janet. Is it Janet? No.
It's Janet.
Yeah. Everett, Lloyd, and Lloyd. So he investigates that. Because the dead guy is part of that acronym? Initialism?
He was part of the union who was working to unionize workers who worked for these people.
There.
I think so. So, like, these big wigs are, like, evil CEOs, and he was, like, just trying to give rights or whatever. I don't know. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, the point is Peter goes into this building where all of these fat, rich, white dudes and Janet are having a meeting. But the thing is, Peter knows Janet because she's the Wasp. So I'm not sure, like, he meets up with her in the bathroom and they have a chat about the whole, like,
It's a kitchen, because she's making coffee for them all.
Oh, yes, that's right. Because she's the only qualified person of all of these people that the building is named after. She's gone to fetch the coffee. He actually says it. Gentlemen, before we start, can we just, like, put our cigars out? My eyeshadow is burning. Like, it hurts. And then some jerk bag says, if you can't stand the smoke, Miss Van Dyne, then stay out of the kitchen. Unless you're going to get us coffee, then go right ahead. Bitch, her name is on the building.
And then she just goes.
Right?
So.
Yeah, that's the thing that really bothered. Anyway, I mean, we could just go on about that one exchange. But wouldn't you know, Spidey's in the kitchen. Like, that's how...
Upside down.
Yeah. So I guess it's a good thing that she was compliant. And they have, like, this really long conversation about, like, who Neville is, why the Union is good and bad, and then they talk about the dead guy's name is Robert Sanchez. They talk about his death and how it could be related to everything that's happening. And then they start talking about some intelligence they have on some guy named Vince Grinetti. Honestly, it's so freaking convoluted that I don't know why they're having this conversation. Please tell me.
It basically boils down to none of it matters because Janet then buys them all out, I guess.
Does she really?
Yeah, she says, fine, I'll buy you all out, even the absentee Mr. Everett. As long as I'm out of here by 5, I have a hairdresser's appointment. And then she's like, sell to you. And then she's like, quiet, you'll sell because you'll get a tiny profit while I get consolidated and the headache of Vince Grinetti all to myself. So she's like, obviously you'll all sell to me because this guy's death is going to be a hassle and I'll take care of it. And I'm like, did they sell to you?
Yeah. They must have. I mean, she makes a bomb pot of coffee. Obviously, they're all very sated. They're all very
Yeah.
amicable.
Anyway, none of it matters, and she owns all of the company now. I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't.
So
But then we.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, now we're just like, we're not in the office anymore, thank God. And Spidey is on a lead that Janet gave him to go investigate these people associated with this guy's death, potentially. And he runs into Paladin,
Yeah.
everybody's favorite mercenary for hire.
In a tree.
And just coming out of nowhere, just in a tree.
Yeah.
And I don't really know much about Paladin, except, like, sometimes he's not the worst. But most of the time he's the worst, or not even close. He's just like a gun for hire, basically, with like some super strength, I think. Is that correct? Someone correct me.
To be honest, I don't know much about this dude.
I've only read him in a couple things. I don't really know. I just know he's got a awesome costume. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like corrugated like house siding.
Yeah, and like a child's Batman face mask.
Right. It's ridiculous.
But yeah. So obviously they fight, because that's what you do when you come across Spider-Man. You immediately punch him. And then his bosses are like, oh, we're not paying you to fight Spider-Man. Go do what we paid you for. So then they invite Spider-Man inside to talk to him, I guess.
And their suits, one, are amazing. Two.
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess Granetti has hired Paladin to bust up the whole union thing.
And to scare Janet?
Yeah. That's how it all comes into play. Like how she...
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And this guy does admit to killing the union guy, too, right?
Yes, he does.
He goes, yeah, I killed him. So it's like, what are you going to do about it? Like, nothing, right?
Right.
So...
And it's just such a weird exchange because I was like, okay, I had to kind of... I was like, is my vision bad? Like, Spider-Man is standing in the same room that is he talking to Spider-Man? Why is he saying that to Spider-Man? No one would ever admit these things in front of Spider-Man. And then, he's like, yeah, I didn't see you in court, officer? Like, that's bold.
Yeah, it's like, what are you going to do, Spider-Man? You going to testify as Spider-Man in court?
Yeah, but Spider-Man, I think, does nothing. And it cuts there, and it cuts to Janet walking around in the park, and like Paladin, at this point Paladin has rushed off to go and scare her, but she is unflappable, and she turns into the Wasp and evades him, and really she doesn't turn into the Wasp, she turns more into like a fairy in lingerie. Just flying around.
Shrinking lingerie,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because the rest of her clothes that she was wearing the lingerie under, those don't shrink.
No.
She did explain it, though. She does explain it after.
Okay.
Because all of her underwear is coated with the ability to shrink, but these clothes were new, so she hadn't coated them yet.
Oh, well. I feel...
It's still dumb. It's still dumb and bad.
Yeah.
But they do explain it.
And it doesn't really... there's no really good reason why the Paladin gets thrown off her scent. Like, she makes herself big again. And...
I think they know each other. Like, I'm getting that, like, they're... Mm-hmm. Clearly she's like, she calls him by his real name.
Right.
And I think maybe they've gone on a date or something before. I don't know the backstory, but like... Obviously, like, was hired to scare her, but he doesn't want to. Yeah. So he's like, we need to make this look fake. And then they tumble into a quaint cafe and sit down and have a drink.
Right? And and she's just sitting, when she makes herself big, she's still just sitting there in lingerie. Her wings are gone. So it just looks like this man in a strange cosplay outfit and this woman in her underwear are having, like...
Also a strange cosplay outfit.
Yeah. Are just, like, having, like... Long Island iced teas on like a patio. It just is so weird.
Like, dude, give her your cape. What a, like, not even remotely a gentleman.
Yeah.
But he does pay for it though.
True.
He does pay for the drinks, and they were $15 each, so, like, that's not that cheap, right?
No, it's not. And that's like 80s money, so...
Yeah.
That's like $20 now? Then they're definitely not drinking Long Island iced teas.
Maybe it's a double.
Triple?
It's a triple. So, like, and then the guy calls her, Mrs. Pym, and then Paladin's like, "Oh, are you still married?" She's like, "No, people just forget. So weird, tee." And then Spider-Man shows up again.
He just leaves, and Spider-Man shows up.
And, like, these people are just having lunch in this restaurant on this patio. Like, how, like...
And nobody questions it.
Yeah.
Spider-Man shows up in his effing costume and then sits down with her. Like, another costumed man sits down, and everyone is just casual. And then...
Well, they're all looking. They're looking over at him.
Well, it reminds me of Avengers, right? When the Hulk is sitting in the coffee shop and the kids just come up and get, like, a autograph or whatever. You know, the vibe.
Yeah. So they have, like, a chat. I don't know what they agree on, but I think Janet tells Spidey what Paladin has told her, and then she's like, "Well, here's the thing. I got a hair appointment. I gotta go." She gets up, and Spidey is just, like, despondent. He's like, but there's all of this trouble afoot, and she's got to go get her wig straightened. And then the waiter hands Spidey a menu. Again, very casual, like he's seen some shit. And that's the end of the story. It actually says to be continued. Like, what's to continue? This is the strangest thing I've ever read.
Well, I want to know what Spidey orders.
Clearly he has the duck fat fries. I feel like this
Not with $23 in his bank.
$123.
Oh, true.
So a side of duck fat fries?
Go ahead, Becca.
I was just gonna say, strange issue.
Mm-hmm.
Chad? What did you think?
Chad.
Well, I'm not gonna like it.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
Don't
how
worry.
hard can I possibly be? I've been the nicest one out of all of us.
Oh, be hard.
No, but I mean, like, Paladin's a piece of shit, and he's wearing Prowler's outfit. And I mean, like,
True.
Wasp is, like, consistently just like shit. She's been shit her whole existence. I mean, it's just terrible. It's terrible. And is she dating him? I mean, she says Paul. Like, what in the name? I don't know. I'm very confused. I don't like it. There's like this women's lib thing. Like, is he trying to make a joke? It doesn't work. I don't know. Am I being hard on this just because I don't know why I'm being hard on this? I didn't like it.
Yeah, you're allowed to not like it. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So, I love this issue. Would you like me to tell you why?
Please.
I like everything about this issue except for the scene of Paladin and Wasp fighting in the forest or whatever, the park. And that tells me that Peter David is comfortable at this point with writing dialogue and characters, but he's not comfortable with writing fight scenes, I guess. I don't know, because he screwed it up both times this month. But I do think the premise is a little bit convoluted, but again, it's completely original. It's like, you're reading the story and it's like, okay, again, I don't care about status quo changes and all that bullshit. We've got a mystery. Something's going on. Robbie Robertson mentions the name of the company. And he's like, does it mean anything to you? He's like, no, why should I? And he's like, Van Dyne. So you're reading this comic, you're like, oh my God, it's fucking the Wasp. The Avengers connection. So then we get just this weird story that, again, it was a little bit convoluted. I don't quite understand exactly how it all fits together, but I thought it was a cool mystery that led to this weird story that, again, I've never seen in another Spider-Man comic. So for that, yeah. I did really like it. I did like them sitting down. I like the realistic relationship between Wasp and Paladin, and the way that they then Spider-Man just sat down in the bar with them. I thought all of that was great.
Yeah, well, do you know what it really reminds me of? It reminds me of just the way that the plot unfolded and the small mystery of, like the small corporate mystery that we were unraveling. Did we unravel it? I don't know. It reminds me of like the plot of Dynasty or like an episode of All My Children. Like soap opera. That was what the writing
but it's
reminded
mafia
me.
though.
Pardon?
But it's like, but I mean, it's about like basically, isn't it drug runners trying to take over this company?
Sure.
Well, that's what it is. That's
well,
that's what they say.
Is it?
Yeah, they say that they're basically that they basically a mafioso guy is trying to take over this company so that they can use it for importing drugs. That's basically what they think is the secret plan here.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that it's not about that. I'm saying that it reminds me of something, and it reminds me of like a not great version of that something. Because it's not, that's the thing, is that seems cut and dry. Like, your explanation of what is happening happened, but there's all this other stuff happening too that makes it kind of a little, just like a little kooky and a little far-fetched. And that's what soap operas were to me. There's just a little bit of kookiness. Like, who threw Timmy down a well? A freaking witch. Like, why is there a witch in As the World Turns? Like, I don't know. But she's there. You know? Like, just like here. You turn around and suddenly Paladin is in the tree with Spider-Man. No one is questioning why Janet's sitting around in her underwear. Like, no one. That's what I'm saying. Is like, there's just a little bit, they're delivering some weird kookiness that is just strange for the medium. I'm not sure that I want that in a Spider-Man comic book. I mean, I don't know what I want in a Spider-Man comic book. I feel like this isn't one of those things, though.
All right, Josh?
Yeah, I thought that I was reading a Marvel team-up issue. Like,
we all know how much you love those.
Spider-Man really didn't feel like he was like he even needed in the story. Like he was there to introduce a different character, and then they kind of wrote him off as, oh, he's talking to somebody else. I didn't really like the setup, again, because it was so convoluted. There wasn't enough like interesting things happening for me to like, you know, push the fact that it was a little bit too much to the side. But I think where the comic shines is when it's just, you know, the two of them sitting at the restaurant chatting, and the fact that everybody's looking at them weird as they're just like casually in costume, or the lack of a costume, at this like fancy restaurant, and the waiters just have to be like, okay, I guess this is fine. And then, yeah, again, Spidey afterwards, sitting in the restaurant by himself. That's super fun. I really enjoyed that. It's like superheroes having to like, you know, still live their lives. It's almost like the Avengers eating shawarma after destroying half of New York.
Yeah.
Right? Like it kind of has that vibe where it's like, yeah, I don't see why I shouldn't be serving you food or drinks right now. Like I had a lot of fun with that. But the story sucked. Like, I don't know. It was nothing. Again, Spider-Man, like, why is he here? Again, it feels like he's setting up Janet's story, and it's not his, and that gives me, like, nasty team-up feels.
Bex Luthor.
Yeah, what up?
What'd you think?
What do you want?
What's your review of Peter Parker 105?
Yeah, not a whole lot of Peter Parker. Interestingly, yeah, the same kind of thing. It feels a little Marvel team-up-y, which is never a good thing. I have no idea why Janet is written like this, like so dismissive. It's strange. She just is like walking through life without a care in the world, and things just happen because things just happen to me because I'm such a good person. It's so boring.
I don't know. I think she was kind of like that around this time, wasn't she?
Yeah, I'm not sure that anybody ever wrote a good Janet story. They always treated her like shit in the comics. And by they, I mean the writers. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it seems like none of these men know how to write a woman who, like, is confident and fashionable and, like, without making her vain and, like, and ditzy. Like, she can want to get her hair done and her nails done and also be a badass. Like, she doesn't have to be like, well, I'm just gonna go get my hair did, you deal with it. Like, I don't, it takes me off. Because, like, Wasp is a cool character and she's been through a lot of shit. And this issue, while she is the main character of it, she makes coffee. And then is also just, like, happens to say a few things and doesn't do a whole lot. I don't know. It really rubbed me the wrong way.
But you realize that, like, she's aware how ridiculous it is that they asked her to make the coffee. Like, that's obvious.
She still did it.
Sure, but I mean, so what? I don't know.
She's like, oh, well, I make bad coffee. Like, that'll get him. No, you are. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I don't know.
It's like she still makes the coffee, and then she goes, oh, and by the way, you're all fired. Like, oh, good female empowerment. Yay. I don't know, it just seems weak and forced and bad.
And just the idea that there's, like, a boardroom full of jerks smoking. And they're not just smoking cigarettes, and they aren't even smoking weed. They're smoking cigars. Like, rude.
Yeah, but this is 1985.
Still.
And it's gonna ruin her eyeshadow.
It's gonna ruin the furniture. Ew. It's gonna get in your clothes. Like, I just don't understand why people allowed, like, cigar smoking on that level. It's not like they were celebrating a big buy or anything. They were just having a meeting about union busting. It's just weird.
Well, I'm assuming that's what people did then, because whatever. We all know that that's what everybody did then, so.
I mean, do we? I don't know what people in the 80s did.
Okay,
I wasn't there.
I was.
Especially rich people in the 80s. I don't know what they were doing.
I grew up my whole life having smoke in my house, all my friends' houses, my uncle's house, my grandparents' house, so this
that
is what it was.
It.
Yeah. All bars had smoking.
It's all the deprivation.
All restaurants, Burger King, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, everything. There was smoke everywhere, so.
I used to hide gummy bears in the ashtray in the armrest at the movie theater. I used to call it the gummy bear cave.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Did you eat them or just put them in there?
Oh no, I just put them in there. I would never eat. There were cigarettes in there.
Oh.
You just put gummy bears in there and be like, oh, this is gross. Just fill it with gummy bears.
Yeah, like everywhere that there was an arm for a chair, there was a cigarette thingy inside it. And it's just, it's a crazy thing to imagine that was the norm. And that changed. I'm also just shocked that they would write something like that in there. I don't think that it was the whole, well, you should just get us coffee. Like, that was regular. And I'm glad that that's changed. Cigar smoking in meetings was regular, and I'm glad that's changed. That's just it. I guess that's the takeaway from this spectacular team up is that things have changed for the better. This will only remind you of the terrible past.
Okay, what about, let's quickly talk about the art. Luke McDonnell, I think we might have seen him before, but he's mostly known for Suicide Squad. I went in thinking it was going to be terrible, but I didn't mind it. Chad, what'd you think of the art?
It was fine. Paladin looks like shit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he probably just looks like shit in general, doesn't he?
I don't know anything about this guy.
Okay.
He just looks like hell. I do like the textures. They did the colors better this time.
Yeah, this is the original color.
Yeah, so I'm into it just because it feels, for that whole artifact thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we've grown past all this.
Any other comments about the art from anyone?
Okay.
Ugh. Go ahead.
The American Express. Sorry, I just saw. You know how we're speculating that maybe perhaps they had doubles or triples? They had rum and cokes.
Yeah.
So
What?
And Paladin's
just-
name on his credit card is Paladin.
Ah! Oh, I love that. What a man.
Really? I didn't notice that.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
That's
And-
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What rum was it that it was $15?
Right. Fell off an actual pirate ship. I didn't mind the art. It was good. It wasn't terrible. Do you know what? Janet Van Dyne is like she must be like a fitness model because she's very muscular.
She does work out.
Right?
I mean, she's a superhero.
Like 0% body fat, man. Go you. Maybe, do you know what? Maybe that's why she was like, whatever, I'll go make their coffee. Because she's just like unfuckwithable. She's like, do you know what? I'll just make a call while I'm making their coffee. I'll buy the whole place and they can just like suck my, you know? Maybe that's why she didn't care. Because she was like, well, these guys are assholes and I owned 51% of this business.
She's not even wearing eyeshadow. That pisses me off.
So
Like, they do close-ups of her face. She's not wearing any, but she made a comment about it. Anyway, actual comments about the art. What page is it on? I don't even know, dude. But it's like when Spider-Man's in this drug lord's mansion, and they're like just having a chit-chat. Why does he look weird? He looks very squart.
Yeah.
What's squart?
Like squished and squart.
Squat?
It's it.
Squat?
Yeah, no, squart.
Squirt.
I've never
Okay.
heard that word in my life, but you mean digital page 12?
Yeah, I think so, when he's in the house.
Yeah, that's true. He looks
It
squart.
Yeah, right? Like, he looks squart.
Yeah, well, let's be clear. Like, no offense to Luke McDonnell, but he's not the greatest artist.
Yep.
So
The art's fine. I think just like the perspective on people is off sometimes. Like Paladin looks like his torso's not big enough whenever he's drawn.
I think the inking by Brett Breeding really helps because he gives a lot of texture that you notice, like a lot of the details I think from him. But the actual art is okay, but like you said, it's kind of inconsistent. Like sometimes people just don't look right. Like, okay, go to digital page 14 at the bottom when Paladin is jumping on the Wasp. What in the hell is going on there?
Right.
She doesn't need legs for that. Oh, her legs are like behind his back?
Right, like what is going on?
Yeah, but what are his legs doing?
She's
Also-
doing like the Thriller too, like
Yeah. And it looks like...
Can we talk?
Sorry.
Sorry, no, you go ahead.
The way that the tree's drawn, it looks like they're diving into a portal.
oh yeah.
It's interesting because like the panel above that one, it's just like the bunch of hot dudes playing frisbee with their shirts off, and then you could see Paladin chasing Wasp in the background. It's all shadowed, and he's like, I'm sure that wasn't meant to be funny, but it just like the imagery it sends me.
Yeah, like the contrast, it's funny.
And then they're just tussling in the grass, and these people are just like, what are they doing?
Right.
Yeah, they must know that she's the Wasp, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I think so.
everyone knows that she's the one.
Because they're like betting on this fight.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think the key thing with Peter David is that he's totally aware of the absurdity of superheroes, and that's why he just has, them wrestling on like, like the park. And like people are just like, look at that, And at this time, no one else was really doing that. But thankfully, the Marvel movies have really embraced that, I think. Like, just they're well aware of how absurd everything is. I think that's really cool. So yeah, that wraps up, I think, a review of this issue. I definitely recommend it. Although I do think it's a far more convoluted premise than the other Peter David stories we've read. But I still like it. I still like the characterization of Wasp and Spider-Man and everybody. And we're going to find out how this thing wraps up in part 2 next month. So or next week. And I know that, Chad, you won't be with us, but feel free to read it and find out what happens.
Sure thing.
So I recommend this issue. Chad, do you recommend it?
Nah.
Okay. G.I. Jolie.
Oh, yes. Oddly, yes. As strange as... out of the two strange Peter David stories, I'm going to recommend this one. Just because you really need to see Paladin's outfit. It is so terrible.
Yeah, he looks like he plays the washboard in a jug band.
He is the washboard. Uh-huh. And he plays it. And he's Cobra Commander. And he's always prepared for a 3D film? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking up Paladin now, and he's never gotten a nice costume, so that sucks for him.
Oh, beans. Was he in the Spider-Man Runner game?
I looked that up too. No. Not
So-
important enough.
Usually at this point we'd be wrapping up the episode, but just because we love comic books so much, we decided to throw a bonus one in here to throw everything off. Unfortunately, it's Secret Wars 2.
Boo.
Chad, you volunteered to summarize this issue. It's funny because I read all the issues. This is the one that I partly skim read because I thought it was so terrible. But if you did read the whole thing, then please tell us what exactly happened.
Okay. So, of all of these issues, I read this one first. And I started with Secret Wars 2, issue number 1, because you requested that I at least get familiar with what happens. I did. The Beyonder is a divine being from another universe who comes to Earth because he misses his friends that he kidnapped a year ago. And he fights the X-Men, which I'm familiar with. And Captain America was there, and he really... by he, I mean the Beyonder, takes a shine to Captain America because we start this episode with him making himself a body of Captain America. And from there, it is... Have you ever seen the movie Cats?
Yeah.
Which one?
Cats 2019?
Yes.
Oh, have I ever?
The butthole
All
version
right,
or the
so-
non-butthole version?
Yeah,
But-
release the butthole cut.
You people in butts, honestly.
That's not us. That's not us. That's Twitter.
So you have Captain America, you have Beyonder in Captain America's body in a pair of white long underwear, having adventures around New York City, running into people that he's supposedly supposed to remember, and they're supposed to remember him, and some of them do, and some of them don't. And it's just kind of like Beyonder's having these stupid little adventures, running into one group of New York-based heroes after another. The first ones he meets are the Fantastic Four, who are dealing with race riots and people being mad at each other, and all of a sudden a sinister villain turns Sue into Malice, who's not Sue. She's a copy of Sue, who, in any case, it doesn't matter because the Beyonder moves on. He then he meets up with Spider-Man, who he stalks through work, and then he follows him home, and then the Spider-Man changes costume and realizes he's up against the Beyonder and teaches the Beyonder how to use the bathroom. And then after that, oh God, I forget who he meets after that.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four and She-Hulk.
And then
Right,
Iron Man and Iron Fist.
Because Thing is still stuck in space from the first Secret Wars.
Right.
Well, there's a whole bunch of
right.
nonsense that I'm not familiar with. And it all just kind of happened. I think my favorite character from this issue was Old Elsie, the crazy bum who tells Beyonder that his clothes don't fit.
Yeah.
And she and Beyonder fight off some gang kids. One of them is Charlie Car Crash, which I think is an amazing name. And then they, I don't know. It ends with him meeting up with the Heroes for Hire and a joke about having to pay his own way. So he turns a building into gold, and because gold is an actual weak element, it crumbles to the ground, and Luke Cage is mad.
Yeah. He turned the Heroes for Hire building into a pile of gold.
Yeah, it was written by Jim Shooter, who is infamous, but clearly not a good writer. It was, you know what this was? I went into this thinking it was going to be an adventure because the first issue with him fighting the X-Men was an adventure. There was obvious, the fisticuffs, right? This was like wandering around New York, just running into people, making jokes, and being stupid. And I guess if you're an omnipotent God being, that's what you do. But, it was just terrible, and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
No fun was had. Okay, so the fun that I did have, I should take that back, because I did like old Elsie just because she's a fashionista, but when he first changes clothes, he goes into the menswear. It's very clearly the gentleman looking him up and down is a homosexual, which I thought was really funny. He's basically Grimsby from Little Mermaid.
Oh my God.
But he works at Hugo Boss or some menswear clothing store. Because he dresses the Beyonder in some clothes, and he has to pat his head down with a paper towel because he's just so horny.
I mean, the dude looks like Captain America.
Right, exactly. I mean, it all makes sense. Uh-huh. But, just terrible.
So, a quick word about Jim Shooter. I know that you mentioned he's a terrible writer. Funny enough, he's actually a child prodigy.
Oh, God.
He was...
For what?
For writing. He was such a good writer when he was a kid. He was hired to write Legion of Superheroes and Superman when he was... Are you listening? 13 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
Why aren't we reviewing those issues?
I'd love to.
That'd be fun.
They don't have Spider-Man in them.
He wrote Legion of Superman for a few years, left, came back, wrote Legion again. Then he started working for Marvel. He had a short run on Avengers that culminated in everyone's favorite story where Carol Danvers gets raped by an alien and has a baby in the same issue. That's Jim Shooter. He's very, very, very particular about what makes a good story and what doesn't. And for a while, that formula kind of worked. And so he was the editor of Marvel from, I think it was 77 to 86. And in that time, many people, including myself and Mike Dell, we consider that like Marvel's peak period. Other than the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, that's Marvel's peak period for creativity. There's a lot of good stuff there. Unfortunately, what happened towards the end was that he became so... what's the word when you become sort of like obsessed with your own formula and your own whatever?
Megalomaniac?
Yeah. He became a megalomaniac. That he started pissing people off so much that they started leaving Marvel, going to DC. And eventually they hated his guts. He got fired, and the end. And then he basically became blacklisted from Marvel and DC for like 40 years. This is partly the reason he was fired. Secret Wars 1 was bad. Secret Wars 2 is a steaming piece of crap. I started reading this issue, and I kind of enjoyed the first couple pages because it was kind of interesting, following along what he was thinking. But then the moment I like the Spider-Man stuff. Then the moment he just switched gears and then went to Fantastic Four, I'm like, this is just setting up an issue of Fantastic Four. It has nothing to do with what's going on. That was garbage. Then, the Power Man Iron Fist stuff I didn't even bother reading. But the scene of Spider-Man teaching him how to use the bathroom, a lot of people make fun of that. I didn't think it was terrible. I mean, if a god did become, get a human body, that is something that they wouldn't know how to deal with, right? So I thought that was kind of funny. But other than that, yeah, this was terrible. And the art's terrible too by Al Milgrom. It's garbage. So sorry you had to read this, but it does have Spider-Man in it, so we're obligated to read it. Joshua
Spider-Man was
Bruvel,
there.
what did you think of this issue?
I mean, I felt the same about this issue as I felt about Amazing Spider-Man this week. It's like a weird comedy that's not funny. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the same thing. But instead of Spider-Man trying to survive in a suburb, it's this god trying to survive in, on Earth. And again, I like comedy in comics. I would totally be okay with it, but the story's not interesting and the jokes aren't funny. So it's just kind of like, boring, and there's not enough like good things in this comic for me to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. There's small little nuggets here and there that are kind of fun and interesting. Like, again, I like the idea of a god not knowing why humans need to eat, or teaching them how to use, or teaching a god how to use the washroom. That's like a funny concept, but I don't think that any of the jokes really pan out a whole lot. Mm-hmm. They're kind of just like
Well, I mean, it also doesn't help that Al Milgrom is not a great artist, and there's also, if you just click through the pages, every page is loaded. Like, just go to digital page, what is this, 2? 3. Look how much, look at these yellow boxes. This does not make me want to read it. This makes my eyes repel off the page and not want to read it, And that's why, like I said, I was reading it, and then as soon as it got to the Fantastic Four, I'm like, oh my god, this is not part of the story. It's just setting up a crossover with Fantastic Four. This is garbage. And so that's where I just stopped reading. But yeah, I like the scene of him teaching him how to use the bathroom. G.I. Julie, what did you think?
Oh god, I was mostly confused. I was like Josh. It made me It made me like, was it irrational to be angry? I mean, I control how I feel about things, and I allowed myself to let this thing make me mad, because it was terrible. I don't know if anyone here has watched Buffy, but like,
yes, I love Buffy.
Right, the 5th season with Glory, she's a god, and she's a god inside the body of a human, and she is just living, and this guy is like getting a bladder infection, like allowing the toxicity to overload his liver. Like, is it the liver when it circles back?
Sure.
I don't know.
Kidneys?
Yeah, kidneys, that's it. Like, I just, aside from the believability, aside from the art, I welcomed the yellow panels, because at least it told me what was happening, and I didn't have to hear the vapid, like, dialogue that was written for the Beyonder. Mm-hmm. Because they, not only did they make the joke once, which was, what was the thing he always said about eating? Is this why is eating? Right? It was the way he said it. Cool.
Right,
so he says it the first time. It was like, oh, that's funny. Beyonder doesn't really speak English because he's a god. So he'll say, why is eating? But then he says it a second time. And then he says it a third time. And then he says it a fourth time. And then he says it a fifth time. Except for he says it in the context of like something else. And it's like, buddy, you really think you got a joke here? Like, let me tell you, no. Like, when you said he was a prodigy, I wanted to vomit. I just was like, that's impossible. Who called him a prodigy? Like, this is terrible writing. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, I can say quickly that when we did our review of a Jim Shooter comic, we started the review with Mike Dell saying Jim Shooter was a genius. And by the end of the review, we were not saying he was a genius. We were using much different words for him. But anyway,
man, white dudes really be getting it easy. You can just fucking throw anything on a slab of paper and now you're a savant.
Well, to be fair, until you read his Superman and Legion, you can't say that, because they were really good. In fact, he's what got me into Silver Age DC, and they were really good. This is garbage.
Yeah, but I'm reading this now.
Yeah, like
Right.
you said, it's garbage, and this is probably why he was fired. So
this is the first comic that I've had to read for this podcast that I did not read fully and just skimmed because I couldn't read it.
yeah,
I read issue 1 and I was like, ugh, like I slogged through it. It was a time. And by the time I got to this one, which I just, like I read everything else 5 days ago. And today I read this one because I procrastinated a lot because I just couldn't. I didn't do it and I literally just skimmed it and I went, cool, Spider-Man, done.
Yeah.
Is this Secret Wars 2? Is this also a ploy to sell toys? Because I can't imagine it could be for any other reason.
Actually, I don't think, not really. It's more just like a follow-up.
Yeah, I think just because the first one sold well, they're like, well, why not? Let's do it again.
Oh, that makes me even more mad then. Like, I was like, at least they got some toy money out of it. No, they didn't even get that. Cool. So it's all pointless.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah?
What a colossal waste of time.
Yeah.
I'm with you, Jolie. Like, it made me mad to read something so bad to waste my time. I got stuff to do. You know?
You know what? I'm with. I'm definitely. I can empathize with you because I skim read it too, and like Chad, I kind of skimmed it. But also like Chad, I liked Elsie and that little fashion, the little fashion moment we got where she was like, she's like, that suit's too tight for you, but you know, whatever, you got it on. But she realizes he's a god and he's changing it to fit him based on her critique. So she continues to critique and help him. Like, that is probably the best scene in the entire book.
So, yeah, I mean, that was another one of my thoughts. So the yellow boxes in the beginning were real heavy. And part of what I liked about it at first, once we got past all that, was like all these inane, stupid, normal human beings who occupy New York City. I mean, I know that we went in a little bit on the people in Scarsdale and how like annoying they were, but like you've got this Captain America god creature who's just wandering around New York City and like learning about things and running into people that make like silly, stupid jokes. And then he moves on. I didn't like it when we saw the other heroes. I kind of wish the book had just been this Beyonder running into normal folks and like learning a little bit. And like maybe the whole book is him and Elsie versus Charlie Car Crash. Like that might have been like something more interesting to read rather than like this catalog of like, do you like these characters in Fantastic Four? Do you like Malice? Check it out in the next episode of Fantastic Four. And then, like, the next 3 pages are about trying to sell the Spider-Man universe. And the next 3 pages are trying to sell Iron Man. And, like, it was like I don't know the word for it, but like a catalog. Like, you read one comic book that's supposed to lead you to other comic books rather than just, here's a character who's immensely powerful and he's learning about, like, paying your own way, and here's a building made out of gold. Like, what if he turned Elsie's little like shopping cart into gold? Like, that would have been kind of funny and cute.
Well, here's the thing. One of the reasons we read this issue is because the gold building will lead to a storyline in Spider-Man, so there'll be fallout from that. That's kind of interesting. But other than that, no, I do agree. Like, following him around was interesting, and like, even though it wasn't well executed, it's like, okay, at least like get what they're going for. But the moment he ran into the Fantastic Four and Malice, I was like, okay, I'm out. And then and then like Power Man and Iron Fist, I'm like, this is, what the fuck is the point of this? And it's just, again, the problem is when you have the editor-in-chief of Marvel, also the writer, and then therefore no one is above him telling him, okay, buddy, this is garbage. You've got to redo this. This is exactly what you get, right? When you have no one standing over your shoulder. And
but don't you remember the first Secret Wars? They were all here.
Yeah.
They all need to come back again.
Except for the thing.
Come on.
For the fact, that, like, Iron Fist and Power Man weren't there.
True. Yeah, I think.
Wasn't it just Reed too? Like the Fantastic Four weren't there.
No, the thing was.
Was the other two?
I think they were.
I don't remember Sue being there, but maybe she was.
I can't remember. It's not whatever.
No, it does not matter.
I think that Chad was totally on, hit the nail on the head. Yeah, thank you. I've got too much Tylenol cold and sinus in me. Yeah, the story would have been better if you just focused on one character, like the Beyonder and somebody else. Like even if it was Spider-Man, if you need to have a superhero there the whole time, have it where the Beyonder doesn't understand secret identities, and he keeps calling him Peter Parker.
Right.
And so Peter's like, oh shit, now I have to take care of this god and teach him how to live. So it's just like Peter chasing him around the city, trying to like help him fit into society on Earth.
Right.
Like something. But yeah, it really just felt like, remember all these fun characters you love?
Yeah.
Well, here they are again, folks.
So yeah. Last time we read all of Secret Wars 1 in one go, so I did spread out the issues, but thankfully we will not have to read the whole series. I think there's only 3 more to go after this, and then we're done with Secret Wars 2, so that's good.
Mike, oh, come on.
So
how about we just skip it?
Nah! You gotta at least read the Spidey scenes, okay? You can skip the rest, but not Spidey.
What if we just didn't? What if we just didn't and skipped all of it?
It's impossible. The idea is unheard of, Becca.
Well, I've always been one to push the buttons. So.
Our 6 listeners would never forgive us. Anyway, okay.
I will say I actually genuinely laughed when the Beyonder ate a beer bottle like a hot dog.
Yeah.
I thought that was definitely a hint as to where this was going, and then it didn't go there, and then yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say not only do I not recommend it, but I accidentally bought this when I was younger, and I gave it away because I hated it so much. So yeah, do not read Secret Wars 2, any of the issues. But we're gonna be reviewing 3 more of them. But anyway, Chad, do you recommend this issue?
No.
Okay. G.I. Jolie?
No, sorry.
Josh?
No, not even a little.
All right, what about you, Bex Luthor?
Just for malice, but that's it.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank Chad for joining us again, Chad. Yeah, and we'd definitely like to have you on again soon.
Sure.
I'd love to say that next time we invite you on, the comics are going to be better, but odds are they won't be.
Actually, you know what's funny? I actually purposely waited till now because the comics, in my opinion, are better. That's why I waited this long.
So I lucked out.
We just spent an hour shitting on things, but okay.
Well, you guys did, not me. Not me.
Yeah, Mike loves Secret War 2. You heard
not
it here
that.
first.
I like the other ones.
But I thought you didn't recommend Peter Parker.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Of course I did.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Well. Oh, sorry.
Big recommendation. Anyway. Okay, so yeah, I'd like to thank Chad for joining us. I'd like to thank G.I. Jolie and Bex Luthor for joining us. Be sure to tune in next week. We've got a 2-part Spider-Man story following up about the gold building, if you can believe that. Ooh. So that's going to come back into play. And then we have a follow-up to the Wasp story and Peter Parker. So there you go. We got, follow-ups to all these stories. So it's going to be a fun time. No Secret Wars 2 next week, guys, so don't worry about that. But there's more coming. Whew. And Josh, you can take it from here.
We also want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts, or you can drop us a line on Twitter at HCTSpidercast. It really helps when you let us know what you guys think about the episodes and the issues that we're talking about. We really want to keep that comics conversation going.
That's right. So until next Monday, Spider friends,
no.
Go for it!